This episode of On the Limb with Nature's Voice Game Calls is brought to you by Backwater Truck Supply, located at 100 Armor Creek Road in Nitro, West Virginia, right across from the Town and Country Supply. Contact them today at 304-610-8699 or check them out at backwatertrucksupply.westvirginia.com. Backwater Truck Supply specializes in accessoring your ride to your liking, new or old. Does your Jeep or truck need lifted or leveling kit installed? They've got you covered. New tires or minor automotive repairs? They got you covered there as well, with a full-service lift along with a wheel balancing machine. They are affiliates with some of the top brands in the automotive industry. Contact them today at 304-610-8699 or check them out at backwatertrucksupply.westvirginia.com. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of On the Limb with Nature's Voice Game Calls. Tonight we have Jason Webb with, he's managing member with Capital Advocates, LLC out of Charleston. How you doing, Jason?
Hey, good, Mike. How are you, man?
Oh, we're doing great, buddy. Doing great. Dan will be in here with us later on. He's working out in Illinois, so he's got a few things that he's got to do. But we'll get right into talking about doing a little election recap here in West Virginia. We just had an election there yesterday, and how was that on your end of things?
Well, we were watching it. Obviously, the Republicans have control of both houses. They had a supermajority in the House of Delegates. They started out the evening with 79 members out of 100, and this was the first time that there were 100 single-member districts. So we moved away from that sort of multi-member districts where you'd have 2 or 3 delegates representing your area to one delegate per district, and they ended up picking up 9 additional seats. So now the Republicans have 88 in the House, and there's only 12 Democrats left. And over in the Senate, they started out the night with 23 Republicans out of 34. And at the end of the night, they got 7 new ones elected, Republicans, and so now there's 30 Republicans and only 4 Democrats left in the Senate. And I wouldn't be surprised if one Democratic senator wouldn't switch here over the next couple of weeks, which would make 30 or 30 move to 31, if you will. And so it was we're a conservative state, we're a Republican state. I've always felt like we've always been a Republican state.
Yeah.
But, so it was, I don't think that there were a lot of upsets or a lot of shocks, throughout the entire state. Most people were watching, what was going on with Congress and the U.S. Senate and the U.S. House of Representatives. And, that's still yet to be determined.
Yeah.
I think that the Republicans will take control of the U.S. House of Representatives. There's 435 total seats. You got to have 218 to have a majority.
Yep.
I think the Republicans end up with just a slim majority, maybe 221 when all the votes are counted. And of course, in the U.S. Senate, it's been tied 50-50, and a lot of people may know this, but the vice president in a tie cast the deciding vote. So that's Kamala Harris, who's a Democrat, the vice president with Joe Biden. And so she gets to break the tie, at 51. And so I think the Republicans actually will end up with 50 seats. I think they ultimately win Nevada. I think that the Democrats end up winning Arizona. And then, that puts you down towards, Georgia. And Georgia, you've got to have 50% or greater. A candidate has to win by at least 50%. And if you don't, it goes to a runoff election. And then the runoff election, I think, will occur in Georgia. And I think Herschel Walker will ultimately end up getting that. The Libertarian, I think, got 75,000 votes down there. And so I think some of those Libertarians will end up voting Republican. So I think that'll end up breaking the tie, and there'll be 51 Republicans in the U.S. Senate and probably 221 Republicans in the U.S. House. But, yet to be determined. I tell you, Yogi Berra said it best. He said predictions wouldn't be so difficult if they didn't involve the future. So
yeah,
that information's good for tonight, but can obviously change.
Yeah.
But that's where I see it kind of coming down.
Yeah, and there was a lot of eyes on the gubernatorial races there, in Pennsylvania and I think a couple of other states, wasn't there?
Yeah. Josh Shapiro, very well liked attorney general, Democrat in Pennsylvania, won. As far as I can tell, the people that I interact with and my colleagues in Pennsylvania like him. He's a kind of a spitball firecracker. I mean, he lets you know where he stands. You don't ever have to kind of question it. But I think he'll do fine. A lot of people were watching that. Republicans felt like that Dr. Oz was going to beat Fetterman, and ultimately Fetterman ended up winning.
Yep.
And of course, the Republicans thought they could win, maybe possibly Arizona. And there were a couple of other ones. I mean, before the night started, they were looking at maybe 52 up to even 54 by the end of the night. But again, I think they're going to end up with 50 in a runoff in Georgia, and I think Herschel Walker may end up pulling that off. But again, we'll have to wait and see. But
Yeah.
there's certain states elect their governors in the midterm election cycles. West Virginia elects our governor, as you know, in the major election cycles, which coincide with the presidential races. And then, a state like Kentucky has off-year elections, so they're an odd-year election. So next year, Governor Beshear will be up for re-election down there, and that'll be in the 2023 cycle. So it'll, it's just sort of interesting to watch that.
Yeah, there was a couple of different places, like you said, that was a little heated this year, but the outdoor industry has a political side to it as well, and especially when it comes to the laws and regulations and different things in states, and that's one of the things that we want to have Jason on occasion talking about is different legislative bills and things like that are passed in different states, and different laws and things that he goes up and helps and fights against. So one of the things that he got passed here in West Virginia recently was Sunday hunting, correct?
Yeah, that's something I was really looking forward to working on. I represent the National Shooting Sports Foundation. That's the trade association for the firearms industry, which are your manufacturers, your suppliers, and your retailers. And when I say retailers, that's, of course, the big box stores, the folks like Cabela's and Bass Pro, but it's also the mom and pops, the folks that, are out there every day in different parts across not only our state, but, in the rural areas that are, helping people out and finding the right ammunition or the right size stock or, fitting people and bore sighting your scopes and doing all the things that, help keep us going, especially this time of the year as people's getting ready for gun season here, coming up here in Thanksgiving. So,
yeah, definitely.
They reached out to me and love to hunt. The two bucks I have on my wall, both were harvested on Sunday. West Virginia had this convoluted process of allowing counties to decide. So, I own property in Tucker County, but I can't vote in Tucker County because I live in Kanawha County. So people in Tucker County get to vote and decide what I can do on my own property on Sunday. You can ride a Harley and fish and go to a baseball game and, go have a couple beers in the afternoon, watch NFL, but you weren't allowed to hunt. And we just saw this as a personal property rights. And, if you don't want someone to hunt on your property, you just don't give them permission. But if you want to hunt on your own property or allow someone to hunt on your private property, you can give them permission. And so, it's an economic driver. I used to say that you could literally go across the river in Ohio and hunt on every Sunday all the way to the Socialist Republic of California. You can hunt on Sunday in California. You can't hunt in West Virginia on Sunday. And it didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. It didn't make any sense to several of the other, National Rifle Association, some of the groups we were working with. And so we began in 2016, and the first thing we did was we changed the ballot language because we had several local referendums that were coming up in 16 to change the ballot language. The ballot language just simply said, shall Sunday hunting be allowed in whatever the county was? Well, people didn't know what that meant. They didn't know if you could hunt on anybody's property. You didn't have to have permission. You could hunt in the city park. You could hunt in, just anywhere you wanted because all they read was shall Sunday hunting be allowed. And so, the first couple years those would run, they wouldn't do so well. And so we went in and clarified the language to say, shall Sunday hunting be allowed on private land with written permission, which is required under law right now. If you're on private property, you're supposed to have written permission. And so we ended up winning essentially 11 counties. We went from 22 counties that allowed it and 33 that did not allow it. We picked up 11 counties through that county referendum. We flipped it. So now we're 33 in that would allow Sunday hunting and 22 that didn't. And so we used that momentum going into the 2017 session and ultimately got it passed. And then, turned around and said, well, gosh, not everybody owns 50 acres or has a farm or, private property. And they rely on hunting on these wildlife management areas and state forests and Monongahela National Forest. And, we have a lot of, federal lands and public lands. And so we should go back and make sure that those folks have a place to hunt and enjoy the same opportunities that you would anywhere else. And so in 2018, we went back and added in the public lands and, felt really good about it. And I know that Pennsylvania, reached out to me, and those folks were kind of wanting to know how we were able to do it. And I provided as much counsel and advice to them. And they finally got 4 days that they're allowed to hunt on Sundays up there. And, hopefully they'll change that. I think, you and I talked offline, Maine and Massachusetts are two of the final states that have absolute prohibition on Sunday hunting. I think there's a half a dozen or more or so that, allow partial hunting. Like you can archery hunt on Sundays, but you can't, use a gun. You can hunt, early in the morning or in the afternoon or something. And I haven't read them all, but, there's a limited number of days that you can hunt on Sunday. And so, again, I just think it's a personal property right and look for, the rest of the states to finally sort of adopt a full permissible Sunday hunting laws and enact those, in the next couple of years. So,
we were talking with Eric Gagnon there last night, and he was mentioning about Sunday hunting. And I was like, I'll mention that to Jason Webb and see what he thinks about that. Because, you never know. You could be advocating for that in, Maine at some point in time. They may reach out to you and say, hey, we need your help. Try to get this done. So.
Well, yeah, and what they typically do, of course, the National Shooting Sports Foundation is just a wonderful professional organization, and they have lobbyists, in certain states when they need them for certain issues, and they hired me for that issue, and they've retained me for a couple of other issues here in West Virginia, and so. I'm always willing to lend, the information that I had that was available to me that I found effective or that resonated with, local representatives or state senators.
Yeah, definitely.
And so I've shared that with Pennsylvania, and I'm happy to share it with Maine and others. And of course, National Shooting Sports generally has that information, and they provided it to me. And then some of it was, things that I sort of discovered or came across or researched myself. When we were looking at it, essentially, if you take our archery season comes in the first the last Saturday of September. I think squirrel season comes in the weekend before. So if you add up all of those Sundays, they were almost 2 weeks, and that's 2 weeks that people weren't allowed to hunt. So there were several different points that again kind of resonated with legislators, and they kind of came around to the idea that this is an old blue law. It's been on the books. And it doesn't make sense really in a modern world to do that. And, the working man, people have to work on Saturdays, and Sundays are sometimes the only day they have off. I know it's tough. You and I were talking, I ran to Ohio, last evening and hunted, didn't get, to my stand until about just a little after 4:00, was running late to get there. And I had to go on to Chillicothe and have dinner last night with a client, and then drive back late last night to, do my election reports and updates to my clients, and then try to get to bed, and then, have my first meeting this morning at 8. So, you and I both know you hunt when you can. Some people can take off, and that's great, but others, just whenever you get a couple minutes or a free evening or a free morning and you can make it happen. But again, sometimes that ends up being a Friday evening or a Saturday, or if you've got kids like you and I, all of us do. It's Saturdays are kind of reserved for sports, and then Sunday's kind of it. So I'm glad to see states adopt those Sunday hunting laws and allow it. It's just like any other day, and helps the working man and working women out there who that may be the only day they have.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, in this day and time, there's so many people working 7 days a week. I know if you work in the construction industry or, the pipelining industry, and that's really big right now. Sometimes they're working 7 days a week, and they may get that Sunday off every now and then, but or that Saturday, but it's very limited sometimes. So it allows them to get out there and get in the woods and take advantage of that. So I agree with you on that. Jason, another thing that's been on a lot of people's minds, and we've heard a lot of things about, is the $3 limit and different things like that. How is that within the state of West Virginia? What's going on with that?
Yeah, so earlier this year in 2022, the commission actually set out to essentially make a motion and try to vote on it. Some of the DNR commissioners sort of said, well, listen, that really wasn't on the agenda. We've been talking about it. Maybe we should sort of set that for an agenda at some future date. So then they got into the discussion, when is the future date? When should it start? One commissioner said, look, we've been talking about it a long time. Let's set it for 2023. And they said, well, we don't have to vote on it right now. Let's take this up at our first meeting in 2023, and we can vote on it then, and it can essentially start on July 1 of 2023 when the new regulations come out. And so whatever the commission decides in roughly January of 2023, those changes will take effect on July 1 of 2023. And I believe they have the votes to lower it from 3 to 2. And I'm in favor of it. To me, the people always complain about not having big bucks, but they've got to have age. They've got to get older. I mean, there's no such thing as a 2-year-old 150-inch deer. They've got to get to 3 years before they get have the potential to get into the 150 plus. So I still think I will still buy an extra archery tag for $1. I will still likely buy a gun tag, an extra, RG gun tag like I always have. I've never purchased a muzzleloader tag. I've muzzleloader hunted some, but I don't buy that extra tag. So I'll really be buying the same amount of tags that I always have. We buy a bunch of doe tags. As you know, my son and I, we donate a lot of venison to the Hunters Helping the Hungry program. And so, I think at the end of the day, 3 to 2 makes a lot of sense. I think that's going to help. I looked one year at a statistic, and I'm going to put this in sort of parentheses. I want to say it was 2018, but there were like 750 deer that were checked in, which were bucks that were the third buck of that particular individual. And
oh wow,
if they're meat hunting, I think does taste better than bucks. I think that they're if they want to get to a better buck to doe ratio, we should be harvesting a few more does than we are. And if those are 750 more does instead of a buck, then those are bucks that get a pass and end up, being a bigger buck next year, most likely. So, I look to see that the DNR commission, when they meet again, I don't know when their date is. I think they just met in October and set their dates. I haven't seen it yet, but probably in January they'll meet again. They'll adopt whatever changes that they're going to make to the hunting regulations. And then they'll take up this issue on this buck limit. And I hope they reduce it from 3 to 2. And I hope they have the votes to do it. And I hope it goes into effect for 2023. So I'll kind of be watching that just on a side and see what happens there.
Yeah, that's, I'm with you. I would much rather eat a doe than a buck. Especially, it's so much tender.
Yeah.
But We were talking to Eric Gagnon last night, and he was talking about the limits there within Maine. And I just texted him a little bit ago to get the correct information, but I'm gonna go ahead and say I think that he said it was 10 deer that they're allowed to kill total, and that's with $3. So
Wow.
yeah, the limits there is crazy, and I think they're trying to get some of that stuff changed.
Yeah, I mean it's obviously different in each state. In Kentucky where we hunt, in Kentucky, I mean wherever you are in Kentucky, you can only kill one buck. Obviously in Ohio where we hunt, anywhere in Ohio, you can only kill one buck, and so people are much more selective in Ohio and Kentucky, than they have to be in West Virginia. And I hear it from friends and family and everybody else that say, they pop the first buck that comes along, and then they tell me that they're going to horn hunt, the rest of the season, and then they shoot a fork horn or something else, and I'm like, well, when you going to horn hunt? And they're like, well, you can't eat the horns, and I get that, and I don't want to deny anybody the right to go out and shoot whatever they want. To me, a trophy is in the eye of the beholder. And whatever people want to do, I'm all about it. Go shoot what you want as long as it's legal, and you do something with the venison. And if you shoot an extra doe and you can't do anything with it, then please find a local butcher near you that'll accept it into the Hunters Helping the Hungry program. So I hope. I don't know that I necessarily want to go to one, but I just think two is going to be somewhat helpful. It'll take a couple years, several years to see the effects of that, but I think in the long run we'll get a little better quality management of deer, and maybe take a second thought at whether or not that's the buck they want to harvest, or if they want to wait on another one, and then we'll maybe start to see some bigger bucks show up.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it would make people think, hey, that 5 Point's walking in front of me. Do I want to take that, or do I want to take the doe that's been hanging around here ever since this morning?
Yeah. I'm all about. Make doe hunting great again. I mean, I'm all about it. So
yeah. So speaking of the Maine bag limits. Eric Gagnon's just coming in here. He's a registered Maine guide, so he will be able to give us a little more insight on those bag limits. We were just talking about those, Jason.
So we have a rather long deer season here in Maine. It actually starts about in September and goes right up until like second week of December. So it starts with expanded archery season. That season there, you're allowed one buck, and you can buy unlimited doe tags. That's within city limits mostly. And then for firearm season, I was just telling Michael, is with the appropriate doe tags, you can shoot up to 4. And that's new this year.
Okay, so that was a little less than what I was saying, because for some reason last night I thought you had mentioned like up to 10 or something like that.
No, it's up to 4 because so the way they changed the lottery. They had the lottery, and if you drew a tag, then whatever was left, everybody was in a pool, and you can purchase extra tags. So now that person would have 2 doe tags, and then whatever was left after that initial sale, they had another sale of tags. So you could have purchased a 3rd doe tag, plus they allow you to shoot a buck. So for a total of 4 for during regular firearm season.
Oh. Okay.
And Eric, you're only allowed to kill one buck in Maine, correct?
1 buck during expanded archery and 1 during either regular archery or firearm season.
Okay, so you can essentially get 1 in archery and 1 in firearm, so you can get 2 a year.
1 in expanded archery only, and then 1 in either firearm or bow. If you shoot 1 buck outside of the expanded archery zone, you're done for bucks for the year.
Okay.
Wow, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's. I don't know if just people have a hard time reading the law book, but it's created a lot of confusion this year for some.
Well, somebody needs to hire somebody like you if they're coming to Maine, then, right?
Or just have the knowledge to be able to read.
Well, Eric, since you're on here, we were just discussing Sunday hunting here in West Virginia, and that just got passed about 5 years ago, and then they had a referendum on the bill there and brought some different things in. So you were talking about Sunday hunting the other night when we was talking to you, how you wish that would be something that you all could get taken care of there in Maine.
Yeah. So we are currently one of the last 2 states that allows absolutely no form of Sunday hunting other than dispatching animals during trapping season. So when you're trapping, obviously you have to check them. You know, if it's bear, for example, you have to check every 24 hours. If it's regular fur bearers, I think it's like up to 7 days or something. You gotta check them every so often. But that is the only exception to Sunday hunting. Currently, we are pushing for getting that changed, but there is absolutely no other form of Sunday hunting in Maine. Massachusetts, I believe, is the only other state.
Yes. Yep. You're right.
But I believe that they just passed it so that they will have some sort of Sunday hunting starting next year. So that would leave us the last state in the country with absolutely no Sunday hunting.
Wow, that's crazy. What would be the main reason for that?
Old laws. People don't like change. A lot of the land is either small woodlot owners or a lot of the land is actually privately owned. So one of the big threats is if they allow Sunday hunting, that more people are going to post their land. And immediately, whenever you mention Sunday hunting, the focus goes right straight to deer. And I'm not really sure why. People are just like, oh, I want that one day to walk on my land and not feel like I need to dodge bullets or something. As a landowner, it's still your choice whether you want to post your land on Sunday hunting or not.
Yeah, we faced that here in West Virginia. We heard the same sort of rhetoric, and it's a personal property right. That's how we framed it to folks and said, look, you should be able to do on Sunday what you're legally allowed to do on Saturdays. And
right.
Well, Eric, we thank you for jumping on there real quick to give us a little more insight on that. I was texting him there, and he was like, you want me to just jump on? I was like, yeah, go ahead. I'll send you a link. That's the first time that's happened, so we know that works now.
He'll just start texting everybody now, so have your phones ready.
Yeah, if you've been a guest on the show or you have any inclination about anything in the outdoors, we'll be texting you. Oh, that's funny.
All right, have a good one.
Thank you, buddy. You too. Have a good night.
See ya.
Well, that was pretty cool. I'm glad that he had a chance to jump on there real fast after a text. That's unusual.
Yeah, that's good work.
Yep. Well, so one of the things that we want to do on our podcast, and we try to do every time we have a podcast, is our salute to service. And our salute to service tonight is Brian B. Sear of Madawasketa, Maine. He was in the U.S. Army. He was a sergeant. Spent 12 years. He was based in Germany, Fort Hood, Texas, and out of Joint Base Elmendorf, Alaska. I think that's what that is. He had 2 tours in Iraq, 2 tours in Afghanistan. He had a Silver Star, Army Commendation Medal ×4, Army Achievement Medal ×4, Army Good Conduct Medal ×4, Global War Expeditionary Medal ×4, Global War on Terrorism ×4, Iraqi Campaign Medal ×2, Afghanistan Campaign Medal ×2, Combat Action Badge, Aviation Crew Chief Badge, and Airborne Badge. And he was honorably discharged October 14th of 2014. So, Brian, we thank you for your service, sir, to our great country, and God bless you.
Absolutely.
So, tell us about your hunting season there. We was talking a little bit about you getting to jump in the woods there in Illinois, was it, for a little bit, or was it Ohio?
Yeah, I ran across to Ohio and hunted. Last week I had to go to St. Louis, and
okay.
I was driving through southern Indiana, some places that I used to live in West Kentucky when I went to high school out there. Drove through southern Illinois, and man, it's beautiful, and those bean fields and creek bottoms, and gosh, it's just something else out through there. But yeah, I mean, our hunting season's fine. Listen, I love to hunt. Hunting is part of it. I mean, it's the majority of it for me. The actual harvesting of a deer or whatever later on as they say, that's when the real work begins. But my son Jackson got his first first buck with his compound bow about 3 weeks ago. We were out on a Saturday. We actually went out. It was that doe season that comes in at Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so last year we did the same thing. It was, it was 70 degrees. We got in there late last year. I ended up parking the truck about 30 yards from the blind. I had to walk back to the truck and jump on a conference call. I got out of the truck, walked back in, talked to Jackson. A couple does come in. He was getting ready to harvest one. He took his Savage 308 and he was getting ready to harvest one. And all of a sudden, the biggest buck we've been hunting for jumps out right in front of us at, probably 25 yards. And he's looking at me. And of course, he can't shoot it because he's got a gun. And,
yeah,
it's just the wind direction was wrong for the buck. I mean, just everything that you would never do when you're trying to hunt a mature buck like that. He shows up. So this year he decided to substitute his bow for a gun. And, we didn't expect to see anything because we've had some warm weather, as you all know, over the last week or so, and a couple weeks actually. And so he took his bow and, says, look, I don't expect any bucks to come out, but there'll be some does hopefully come through the field. Maybe I can get a shot on one. And he has 2 does coming in late. We've got about 10 minutes of shooting light. And just as soon as he draws back, a buck steps out. And the buck kind of sees him move, and it kind of takes a couple steps out of the way. And he's not sure if the buck's going to come back or not, but he's still held back, and he's held back. And he's got his bow pulled back for about 30 seconds. And all of a sudden, he whispers, the buck's coming back in. And just as soon as he came back into frame where I could see him, he hammered it. He double lunged it, complete pass through, ran about, 65 yards probably, and piled up. And, he was really excited about it. It's his third deer with a bow. He's harvested 2 does previously, but that's his first buck with a bow. And, he's turning into a bit of a traditionalist. I make him use still in Ohio because just the size of the deer out there and a little bit longer shots. I make him use a crossbow during bow season for now, but probably next year or the year after he'll be full blown compound, and we'll be hanging double sets and trees and stuff out there, and he'll really get to experience it. But we ended up donating that deer to the Hunters Helping the Hungry program, so it was great.
That's awesome. Was this one of the bigger bucks that you all had been seeing? I know that you'd when you sent me a picture of it, you thought it may have been one of the bigger bucks that you all had been seeing on camera.
Well, it wasn't. When he said it was, he goes, it's the 8-point. There is a really nice 8-point out there where we hunt, and it's probably 125, maybe pushing 130, but probably in the 120s, mid 120s. So for your first buck with a bow, that's he kind of has this thing where he says he climbs a ladder. He wants to shoot a buck larger than he shot the previous year. And if a buck doesn't come in that's bigger than that, then he'll just pass on bucks until he gets one. So this ended up being just an average size buck. We nicknamed him Hundo because he's probably only 100 inches.
Yeah.
But he loved it. He enjoyed it. We got a little video on it. He's got it on his YouTube channel. And he, at the end of the day, we were able to provide, meals for those less fortunate. And, that's something we enjoy, is giving back. So that deer, allowed us to kind of continue in that tradition.
Yeah. If you guys get a chance, that's J Outdoors. They have a page on Instagram, and they also have a channel on YouTube. So if you all get a chance, check them out. He's doing an awesome job with his editing there and his video and stuff. I mean, I've watched a couple of them. He's doing a really good job. Yeah,
I mean, that's him. I mean, I'm not in the camera. I'm not part of the camera. I'm more like the Sherpa. I carry the stuff through the woods for him and help him out a little bit. And I try to run the camera some, but he's gotten to the point now where he kind of puts the camera near him where he can touch all the buttons and make it do all this stuff. And
yeah,
I just get to sit back and enjoy it and watch it all happen. And But he, for a 13-year-old, it's good little stuff. He's just trying to take, sort of a passion of his and turn it into a form of art through social media, through the platforms you mentioned, the Instagram and YouTube. And, it serves as as a memory for us to look back on and for him to share with, his family one day, hopefully. And so it's good stuff, good family stuff.
Yeah, it's great that you're a part of that, even though you're not on the screen and you don't want to be a part of that part. But it's awesome that you help him out with his partners and stuff like that, and you're out there in the outdoors, just enjoying it with him. So
yeah, I mean it's wonderful. We've seen some of the most beautiful fall colors and some of the most beautiful sunsets and moon rises. We were the harvest moon that came up there in October. We were in Ohio, and we actually just ironically ended up hunting the exact same spot when the hunter's moon came up. The November moon, the full moon that just came over the hill here. We were hunting on Sunday, and it's just beautiful time to spend away from cell phones and other stuff and distractions, and just kind of getting back to the basics and breathing a little bit, just enjoying the outdoors. And whether it's fishing or mountain biking or whatever, anytime you can go spend time with your family, I mean, that's time well spent. So
yep, definitely, I truly agree with that. So yeah, you all have had a great season so far.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're starting to get into the rut right now, and I mean the last couple of mornings have been good. We're running cameras in several, all the states, West Virginia, Kentucky, and Ohio, and the morning activity right now is just on fire. But obviously the weather's going to turn. It's going to get better as we get towards the weekend. So if anybody's out there trying to hunt, obviously I try to catch the mornings right now. But then next week it's going to really cool down, and I think that's when the big boys are going to start hitting the dirt, so to speak. We hope to get out a couple times, maybe tomorrow, if not Friday, maybe Saturday. We have legislative interims on Sunday up in the Eastern Panhandle, so I've got to travel to the Panhandle on Sunday and be up there Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then hopefully get back and get some work done and get towards that next weekend, and then. It's ready for gun season in West Virginia. So that's something we always look forward to.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're still in bow season right now, but like you said, November 21st, the first Monday of Thanksgiving week, that's the opening day of rifle season here in West Virginia. And man, I can probably speak for everybody in the state. It's like Christmas morning early for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I look as forward to that as any other time of the year for sure.
Yeah, I've had a lot of family memories tied around that week, just with Thanksgiving and everything. And it's just a time that everybody gets together, and it starts on Monday for us. So do you all have like deer camp that you all go to? How's that with the Webb family?
Yeah, so as a kid growing up, we used to pack up and head to Pocahontas County, and we had a camp up there that my grandfather had, and we were able to share it with my uncles and cousins. And I mean, there's nothing in this world when someone would say something regarding going to camp, and that was sort of our saying, they've gone to camp or we're going to camp. And I looked forward to that every year. I'd tremble like a dog. I'd get so excited. I mean, I couldn't contain myself, couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
Sunday night when we get up there and just would be, dragging the next morning because I was so excited. But, sort of time goes on in college and you get married and have family, and right now I take my son and we hunt around here in West Virginia, and then we head up to the Eastern Panhandle and hunt up there a little bit with my in-laws and cousins and spend some time with them for Thanksgiving, and then we come back and try to hunt the weekend if we haven't tagged out, and then of course head next door to Ohio because their opener is the Monday after Thanksgiving. And so I try to take that day off if I can. I can't always make that happen, but I try to get over there 1 or 2 days during that gun season. And of course, leads up until that weekend. And then Kentucky's gun season comes in this Saturday, but we'll have to miss it this year. Just, with the legislative interims, the way they work and the legislative session and the legislative interim meetings that are going on, it's just hard to get to Kentucky. But how about you guys? Mike, what do you guys do?
Well, I think we've talked about this before, but as a child, I used to go to Pocahontas County, and I share the
Yep.
same memories that you had up in that area in Durbin. And I don't do that as much as I used to. We used to have some property here within West Virginia that we hunt on during rifle season, and we still hunt on some property here close to home. But we don't particularly go to Pocahontas County anymore as much as we used to. We've been up there. Probably it's been about 4 years since we've been up there, but yeah, that's how ours runs. I usually take off work the whole week, and we're going every day, morning all the way up till evening here in West Virginia. So that's how it goes for us.
That's awesome. Yeah, Mike, we did the same thing growing up in Boone County. We load up and take our annual pilgrimage up to the Alleghenies, and because there weren't any deer in Boone County, it wasn't until all the the coal mines and the mining activity and the clear cuts and everything else that was made that created the habitat that could sustain the wildlife down there. And now there's all kinds of deer and turkey and bear, and it's awesome. And but we kind of hunt around the house now and go about an hour from here, a couple different directions, and we can hunt and get up there in the morning, and if it doesn't work out, pull out there and go to someplace else, hunt in the afternoon or evening. But wherever you go, just be safe and watch what you're doing. And I hope everybody gets a big buck this year. I mean, I hope that's what everybody gets for Christmas, so to speak, is a big buck. So
yeah, definitely. I know that it's sad sometimes me looking back on those memories as a child going up there and not getting the chance, as an adult to take my son up there as much. But, even though we don't get to do that, we still have enjoyed every minute that he's been in the woods with me since he's been 4 years old. So, we've had a lot of great memories in the outdoors.
yeah, and it's funny. We spend a lot more time sort of in Ohio. We've got some friends over there, and we go over and ride motorcycles and four wheelers in the summertime, and hang out with them and make campfires and have s'mores and other stuff. And so, that what our version of Pocahontas County was, he gets to sort of experience that in Ohio. So when I talk about, let's get out here and run to Ohio for a couple of hours, we're able to do that. But, like you said, going up there and staying all week and having deer camp and having the old guys tell the stories and family, I mean, you just can't beat that. And I'm with you. I wish there was an opportunity to maybe take him up there one time and let him. We still have the old camp. It's a little run down. I've got some family members that still go up there and enjoy it, and that's great. But yeah, I mean, again, I hope everybody has a great hunting season, and I'm sure if something pops here with the legislature right after the first of the year, I'll get a hold of you, and we'll kind of keep your folks informed of what's going on with game laws or deer hunting or regulations or what may pop up during this legislative session and stuff.
Yeah, we definitely want to have you back on, like I said, from time to time to do a kind of a recap on the natural resources side of the law regulations and political side of those things. But we're going to do our scripture of the day real quick, and I believe Dave has that ready to go.
Yeah, Mike, the scripture of the day today is out of 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 18. And we're going to be reading out of King James this evening. It says, "While we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal." I think it's important to remember that, circumstances you face, situations that we face on a day-to-day basis, those things are temporary. They're not eternal. They're not, they're not going to last forever. And, God is eternal, and your relationship with God is eternal. And, a lot of times it's best just to focus on that relationship. That's why we look to the Word for, our moral code and, how to walk and live on this earth, because it's eternal. It's an eternal way of living. And, the way of this world it's dying. It's passing away.
All right, Dave. Thank you, brother, for having that scripture of the day for us. We really appreciate it. Jason, we just want to thank you for coming on this evening and filling us in on the election things there that happened and doing a little recap on that and some different things going on in the legislature in the hunting world. And we just thank you, and we appreciate everything you do.
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me on. I hope I didn't bore anybody to death with my stories. And again, I hope everybody has a successful deer season. And I'm sure we'll circle back maybe after the first of the year and see what the West Virginia DNR Commission decides to do on that buck limit, reduce it from 3 to 2.
Yes, sir. Yep. Like I said, we appreciate you and hope that you and your son there bag a big buck as well this rifle season.
All right. Thanks so much.
All right, brother. Well, everybody, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We have a group there on Facebook, On the Limb with Nature's Voice Game Calls. Be sure to check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast. We're on about 12 or 15 other different outlets. So anywhere you get your podcast, we're probably there. So give us a search and a listen and a follow. And we sure appreciate you listening this evening. Have a good evening. Jason, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
This episode of On the Limb with Nature's Voice Game Calls is brought to you by Carts Towing and Timco Auto Transport. Local and long-distance towing, auto recovery, roadside assistance, auto lockouts, and jump starts. And they also do repossessions. Give them a call today at 304-949-2323 or 304-925-0858. Again, that's Carts Towing and Timco Auto Transport, 304-949-2323, 304-925-0858.